Hello coin collectors out there, welcome back to the Big D Coins channel. In today's video we are going to look at a complete set of 2007 state quarters. We've got one from Montana, Washington, Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah. Now these quarters might look a little different than the state quarters you're used to seeing because these all have the painted reverse to them. So we see the colorized kind of version of the reversed side right here. Now these are actually little stickers that go on top of the reverse. They're not, painted themselves. They didn't actually paint them. We can see on some of them the sticker lines don't precisely line up with the edge of the quarter. But these can be purchased from third-party companies such as the Merrimack Mint. I'm not affiliated with them at all, but this is where I got these coins from. Now you will have to pay a premium for these coins. They do, the Merrimack Mint or whoever does the colorizing of these does add a little bit of value to them. They put them in these nice little plastic cases and they stick the sticker on the reverse side of the coins. So don't buy these unless you kind of know that they're not really going to be worth too much more. They're not going to be worth any more than their actual face value of the coins. You might buy them just because you think they're cool and as a kind of a little bit of a collectible piece, which is why I bought them, and I can share them with you, which I think you will appreciate. Now in this video I do have all of the non-colorized quarters lined up as well. So we've got Montana, we have Washington, we've got Idaho, we've got Wyoming, and we have Utah as well. So let's remove these four, and we'll start with Montana. This was the first one in the year 2007. Now for each quarter, we'll talk a little bit about the design that you see. We'll talk about the mintages, and we'll talk about the values, if there are any that are really worth a lot of money out there. So starting off, we can see pretty clearly there the bison skull, which is a sacred symbol of many Montana's American Indian tribes. In the contemporary times, the symbol is still used throughout the state on schools, businesses, and license plate. The background of the quarter displays some of the diverse landscape of Montana. Now, an interesting thing to point out right here is that when this company made the stickers, they didn't colorize the E pluribus unum. So we see on this regular issued quarter right here, E pluribus unum. Now that is present right here as well. It's just painted over. So kind of interesting. Now for these ones, the company didn't do anything to the obverse side of the coin. So the front side right here is just your normal. I didn't check to see if these are all Denver Mint or where they're from, but this one right here happens to be from the Denver Mint. We flip it over. All the quarters kind of had the same layout. We see the state name right here, the year the state was founded, and then the mintage date down here. So that will be consistent on all of the quarters that we look at. Montana, 1889. It was minted this quarter in 2007. And this represents Big Sky Country. Very cool representation of Big Sky Country. Now, most of these quarters are kind of from the Northwest, or maybe you'd call it the Mountain West, but very nice quarters that we're going to be looking at. And the quarters were released in the order in which they became states. So we can see, these quarters were kind of late in the game as far as becoming states. The state quarter program went all the way up until 2008. It started in 1999 with Delaware, then went up to 2008 with Hawaii. And then they did the territories as well, but that was actually technically a different series which ran in 2009, and that had District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, Guam, America, Samoa, U.S. Virgin Islands, and Northern Mariana Islands. So those ones all came out in 2009. So we can see that these northwestern states right here were kind of toward the very end of becoming states in the United States of America. Now the reverse design of the Washington quarter right here features a leaping king salmon. So we've got the king salmon right there. We see the inscription, the state name, the statehood date, the mintage. The king salmon, we'll talk about that a little bit. The king salmon featured in the reverse design is leaping out of the water in front of Mount Rainier. I did not know that this represented Mount Rainier right here. This active volcano is covered in greater than 35 miles of snow and ice. The salmon is an image of the Pacific Northwest culture fitting for the state quarter. Definitely a fitting image right here with a king salmon and Mount Rainier right here in the state motto, the Evergreen State. Here's a look at the non-colorized version. I'm definitely going to hang on to these, and I'll make some more videos and try and do one for each year. On to the next one, which is Idaho. So this is number 3 for the year. And in Idaho, we see a peregrine falcon. The peregrine falcon was once an endangered species. Wow. As a result of the conservation efforts, the bird can now be found throughout Idaho and other areas of the United States. It is one of the fastest birds in the world. The motto, Estu Peripia, right there, that's the state motto, which means may it be forever. Very cool peregrine falcon right here, which was once endangered, but due to the great conservation efforts, they were able to bring it back, and now it's very common, or I'm not sure if it's common, but it can be found throughout Idaho. On to state number 4 in the year 2007. I guess I forgot to mention the mintages as we go, so we'll talk about those at the end of the video, and we'll talk about the values as well. I've got the Red Book price guide right here to show the values. All right, we're on to Wyoming. Now, this one actually does have some errors associated with it. We'll get to that after we kind of talk about what we see here. The outline of a bucking horse and rider represent Wyoming's Wild West heritage. The state was a popular destination for pioneers traveling on the Oregon Trail. The nickname the Equality State, which we see up here, is derived from the fact that Wyoming is the first state to establish equal voting rights for women. So very cool. We've got 2 very cool things right here. We've got the bucking horse and rider representing the Wild West, and then we have the Equality State right here representing that Wyoming was the first state to establish equal voting rights for women. Now, the errors associated with this, I'm pulling them up right now. So this is from the Cherry Picker's Guide. For the 2007P, we have a doubled dyed reverse. So there's very strong doubling on the saddle. So that would be this part right here. Now this would obviously be covered up by the sticker, but in case yours isn't covered up by the sticker, very strong doubling of the saddle appears just below the saddle horn. This is the strongest of several varieties in which the area of the design is affected. So there are actually 3 different double-dyed errors called out in the Cherry Picker's Guide, and they all involve the area right around the saddle. So on mine right here, well, let's take a look on mine and see if we see it. So we see that it's pretty worn out, but unfortunately it doesn't look like there are any doubled dye markings on the area around the saddle. That right there is some postman damage, and it's rather worn out. All right, so the final in the series, and then we'll come back and talk about the mintages of each of these, as well as the values. We have Utah, the crossroads of the West. Sliding it over right here. So for Utah, what we're looking at, just give me 1 second. It is the 45th coin in the state quarter series. And the quarter's reverse design represents the famous joining of the Union Pacific and the Central Pacific Railroad, which occurred on May 10th, 1869. A ceremonial spike joined the 2 railroads and completed the transcontinental route. This made cross-country travel easier and cheaper to accomplish. It was symbolized the change from an agrarian society, so a farmer-based society, to a industrial one, because we were able to ship stuff and people kind of pretty easily across the country. I do like the coloring on this one. We can see kind of there's very intricate coloring details applied to the train and the train wheels. All right, now I'm going to take out our regular quarters. I'm going to bring back these characters right here. And let's talk about the mintages of these quarters. So in 2007, I'm just going to run through the Philadelphia Mint. For most of these, the Philadelphia Mint very closely mirrors the Denver Mint. 2007 Philadelphia Mint for Montana, we had 257 million. Then Washington, we had 265 million. And then Idaho, we had 294 million. Wyoming, 243 million. Utah, 255 million. So the rarest of the bunch was Wyoming, in which there are 243 million of them made. Now, all of these at a AU 50, so about uncirculated or almost uncirculated, these will be worth 30 cents. At a mint state 63, they'll be worth 75 cents. Mint state 65, $1. Now, although it sounds nice that these quarters could be worth $1 in a mint state condition, you'd have to get your coin graded by a coin grading agency, which is a little bit of a expensive process, so kind of defeats the purpose of being able to sell it in mint state 65 condition for a premium if you have to pay $1, or you have to pay a lot more than $1 to get it graded. All right, everyone, a fun little video for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit that subscribe button. I'll try and get more videos like this coming up. Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy.